All of the central banks around the world have been engaging in stimulus to one degree or another, whether it's alongside negative rates or extremely low rates. Either way, the easy monetary policy is global. Governments are also engaging in massive stimulus programs that are still ongoing 10 years later, despite the constant claims of a rock-solid economy. Something doesn't add up. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we are going to look at what's happening inside of China. It's very important to track what's going on in this country, one of the biggest economies in the world. We have seen this story before. There's nothing that China can do in order to see their stocks declining, their housing declining, and the economy slowing down. It is the endless machine. But of course, that isn't true. We're going to go into some details today of how that stimulation has been taking place. I'll show you the data directly from the sources themselves. First, I wanted to start by looking at an article out of Reuters. China outstanding total social financing up 10.7% year over year. You might be asking what the total social financing is. I will break that down today for you. But right now it is sitting at $31 trillion. Okay, that is quite excessive, even for a country that is considered to be quite large. If you look at it versus the GDP, if you look at it in terms of the growth where it has gone over the last 10 years, this has been exponential. TSF includes off-balance sheet forms of financing that exist outside the conventional bank lending system, such as IPOs, loans from trust companies, and bond sales. So there is money coming from all different sources. We don't just look at commercial bank loans to be able to determine anything. We're not going to look at just mortgages, for instance. You want as broad of a number as you possibly can to be able to track it properly. The People's Bank of China has revised the way it calculates TSF by adding financial institutions' asset-backed securities and loan write-offs. You know, these asset-backed securities are never able to be shaken off. We cannot forget them. They get swept under the rug, and of course they make an ugly mess. Asset-backed securities, as far as I'm concerned, aren't assets, though it's in the name. Now, I wanted to look at this here. This is from Yardeni, and you could see the bank loans, both China and the US, and if you can't see that, China is the blue line. They have grown far faster in terms of the amount of money that's being handed out. Now, these bank loans here, if you take it and look at, for example, the real estate industry, it has expanded dramatically over the last decade, and of course even before that. But during this time, we have seen so much stimulus. We have seen the government come out and provide every type of package that they have ever thought of. Public works projects, the likes of which we have never seen before. The central bank engaging in every possible method to get this all going, to keep the engine moving. But of course, it is finite. It cannot go on forever. We have seen tremendous growth. We saw somewhat of a slowdown 2015, 2016. It was looking pretty bad. Then governments around the world started engaging in central bank quantitative easing. That got things going again. Of course, this started to balloon up all these bubbles. And today you can see that China has actually surpassed the US in terms of bank loans considerably, just showing you that on this chart. Now, that tells us something about what's happening inside of China. This information comes from the SCMP, Total social financing, a figure calculated monthly that previously comprised bank loans, corporate bonds, and IPOs, is one of the most watched indicators as it provides a reading of how much money is flowing from the financial system into factories, infrastructure projects, farms, and shops. If the number is growing, it is largely seen as the central bank loosening its policy stance and a pointer to stronger economic activity in the months ahead. That seems like a good thing, right? Absolutely. However, how much looser can you possibly get? This is absurd. However, the PBOC said that it widened the definition of the indicator to include special purpose bonds issued by local governments, a type of financing the central government has strongly encouraged regional authorities to use in recent months to offset the negative effects of the trade issues with the United States. This is something that we'll see as it progresses throughout the trade issues. Apparently, we've been told they're resolved. Everything is really good now. There's nothing to worry about whatsoever. So we'll see how that all plays out. while, I will track these numbers here, and if they start to decline, maybe that's an indicator as well. I'm going to pay attention to it very closely and of course bring that to you. TSF is comprised of a total of 10 sub-indices, including RMB loans, foreign currency loans, entrusted loans, trust loans, undiscounted bank bills of acceptance, corporate bonds, and so on. You could see all of these that you go through the list, and it breaks it down into exactly what it means for the TSF, total social financing, because we talk about this. I've even done videos about it before, but never really took the time to explain exactly what it is. I wanted to do that today. You could see how broad this figure is, and they've broadened it even more, but you got to watch out exactly what they're including, because just seeing a number expand doesn't necessarily mean anything until you look at it very clearly. So that's what I wanted to do today. Now I'm going to show you the actual central bank website where all of this data is, because that's what I always do. I show you the direct source. I give it to you in the description under the sources if you're interested. But I'm going to show you this because of the way it's organized, and also this is an English article, whereas the one I'm going to show you has been translated to English, so we know that it's not going to be accurate. But let's take a look at this. Total social financing in China, a broad measure of credit and liquidity in the economy, grew by $426 billion in March, much higher than the net increase the month before. The latest data suggests that credit growth may now be bottoming out due to the central bank's effort to loosen monetary conditions. However, a rapid economic turnaround is unlikely. You cannot stimulate the economy in the way that they think you can. They're doing the public works projects, they're building cities that nobody lives in, and this is a way to get people working. I actually would possibly agree with that over simply buying shares of stocks. I think that that is a complete mistake, because this is basically giving money from the people into the hands of the bankers, into the hands of the establishment, and instead we should be utilizing everything we have to stimulate the economy without being a burden on the individual. Now, that goes into a very detailed topic, but simply when the governments react, when they try to stimulate, they always make it worse. That's the way I have seen it. Now, we can make arguments of which one is better than the other. That's really not the point here. I'm just trying to show you what China has done and then the result of that. So far, their economy has grown. More people have moved from the rural areas into the cities, but there has been a lot of problems, the same type of problems that we have seen in other places around the world, where there is excessive growth in certain areas, but that always causes a crisis later on. Look how many people bought in at the top of all of these real estate projects. Now they're very screwed over. I've done videos about that before. Look at what's happening with the shadow banking system in China, growing out of proportion. There's a lot of money here at stake, and there's a lot that could change in the near future as well. Since last year, the central bank has taken a series of measures, including 5 cuts to the bank's reserve requirement ratios, as well as allowing them to issue perpetual bonds to prevent the country's economy from slowing further. We're talking about a country that is slowing down, that is trying to do what it can in order to speed it up, but it doesn't work like that. You cannot simply inject something in and hope that it's going to turn out the way you want. In history, we've learned that this simply isn't the case. Now, you could see China's all-system financing aggregate, breaking it all down. It went to, I believe, 4,600 on this chart here, looking at that. Now, when we hit February, this number really declined, but have no fear, because they reversed that and they were giving out money like candy on Halloween. That's the way it works. China's shadow banking, if we look at this very closely, you can see for yourself that this actually throughout 2018 had been declining, but this could very well turn around. It seems like it's in the positive right now, and that's 2 out of the 3 months so far. We'll look at this, and I want to see what is going to happen, because they're always going to use alternative measures. They wanted to crack down on the shadow banking, but I don't know if they're actually going to be able to. Now, this here is the document directly from the Central Bank of China. I always want to bring you the sources directly. The same numbers are being shown here. So I just showed you that. If you want it, link is in the description. Then we're looking at this because a lot of people are always saying, I want to know where I can get that. I want to know how I can track this or track that. Well, in this case here, tradingeconomics.com is your source. You can look for China total social financing, pull up this page, and you can see the data that I was just showing you a moment ago. You can organize these charts in the way that you want. But the reason I'm showing this is not just for this particular instance. You could see central bank assets in here. You could see a lot of numbers that are very important to track and trace on your own time. You have to do this regularly for yourself. Tradingeconomics.com. I'm going to end the video there. If you found it informative, if you would like to support me, all you have to do is click one button. Click the like button and you are supporting me. You're supporting this channel. So I do appreciate that very much. If you want the financial education you weren't taught in school, these two books have everything you need from top to bottom. You got it all in these two books. Check them out at the link in the description. If you want the audiobook, that's available at themoneygps.com. If you want to find out about China's $32 trillion secret, then you gotta watch this video. Click on it and I will see you there.